Who here has ever been insulted or verbally disrespected by a woman in their life? Show of hands, please. Listen, we've all experienced rudeness, a dismissive comment, or an insult that was totally unwarranted. And I want to talk today about how to handle that in the best way that I've ever learned or practiced in my own life. There's a simple way to stop that disrespect in real time, and it doesn't require arguing, raising your voice, or even really responding at all. Instead, you make her slow down and own exactly what she just said. And what happens next tells you everything that you need to know about what she really thinks of you. Because most disrespect and needless insults only work when they get you worked up or when she can brush it off without you responding to it calmly and immediately. So let's discuss how that's done based on what we know about human dynamics and interpersonal conflict resolution.
It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life.
Many guys don't necessarily lose clarity in the moment when women say disrespectful or insulting comments. They lose control of the situation. That's when a woman tosses out an emotional insult many times quickly and without thought about what she's actually saying. And unfortunately, many guys either don't know how to respond quickly enough, or they do respond, but with a defensive attitude, a return insult, or some other emotionally charged response. But waiting even seconds to respond properly could lose yourself a lot of leverage in confronting and correcting it. So instead of reacting to her insult or disrespect, we're going to take a step back and make her statement stand on its own by spotlighting it. Because once she has to clearly repeat whatever she just said, you're no longer dealing with tone or interpretation. You're both addressing her actual words. So this is what it looks like. You go shopping and buy the wrong lunch meat at Winn-Dixie. You get home and she says, "Oh, for shit's sake, you're so stupid you can't even go to the grocery store without screwing things up." And this is where you have to be prepared ahead of time to respond. When that happens, just look at her in the face and calmly ask, "Sorry, what was that?" And then let her respond. Just stand there looking at her until she repeats it. Don't back down. Hopefully, just that small interjection will get her to stop and really think about what she's just said. But if she has the audacity to actually repeat the statement back to you again, immediately ask her with her own exact words, "You think I'm so stupid that I can't go to the grocery store without screwing things up?" And again, just stand there looking at her face. Wait for her to respond. Now, we would hope that by this point, any intelligent woman would not respond by telling you a third time that you're stupid and that you don't know how to buy lunch meat. But if she does have that audacity, that's 3 times within a matter of seconds that she's called you stupid. And that's the point of today's lesson. So let's jump into understanding why this repetition technique can be very helpful at reducing disrespect. I'll do that by breaking down the process and its effectiveness into what I refer to as 5 layers, which I'll display in progression as an infographic as we go on. And those layers are commitment and consistency, self-perception and identity exposure, conversational spotlight, slowing the moment down, and framing control and power dynamics. Let's start with the first layer, commitment and consistency. Consistency pressure regarding verbal statements maps cleanly onto Robert Cialdini's commitment and consistency principle. From Cialdini's work, we learn that when someone states something out loud, especially multiple times in close succession, they become more psychologically tied to the statement that they made. And each time they repeat a statement increases internal pressure to stay consistent with that statement, right? The more they say it, the more they're going to believe it. And they're going to double and triple down on it. What we're doing here is accelerating that process with intention. Many times, people can say something rude once and then immediately walk it back as a joke, maybe sarcasm, or even reinterpret it and hope that they can feel like they're pulling one over on you. But when we ask for repetition, we remove that escape hatch, as it were. Now she has to either own the statement that she just made or retreat from it in some way or another. And the beauty here is that either one gives you the clarity and shifts the statements back to her own literal words. The second layer here ties to self-perception theory. When we refer to self-perception, people infer their own attitudes from their behaviors, especially when that behavior is observable and repeated. When she hears herself say the same disrespectful line 2 or 3 times, it's no longer a quick emotional slip or an impulse statement. It starts to be a reflection of who she really is. And that creates internal friction. We're essentially turning a fleeting emotional comment into something more like a deliberate position. We're holding her accountable for that. And that's uncomfortable for most people, especially if they want to maintain an identity of being reasonable, kind, and respectful. Our third layer of asking her to repeat herself has to do with social accountability and conversational spotlight. And this overlaps with impression management research. For example, when you ask, "What did you just say?" You're putting the spotlight on the statement itself instead of reacting emotionally to it. So now the interaction shifts from an emotional exchange to an observational evaluation. She's no longer interacting with your emotions. She's interacting with her own words that she's now stated out loud 2 or 3 times. And that subtle shift is often effective for a few reasons. For example, it removes any emotional reward that she gets from the insult. It also increases her internal reputation awareness, as I mentioned, and it forces conscious processing instead of automatic or impulsive behaviors. In other words, you stop playing the role that she's expecting you to play. She's expecting you to snap back at her. She's ready for you when you do snap back, which she then will use as more weapons to justify her original insult. But focusing on her statement and having her state it multiple times, again in quick succession, diverts that weaponization. By the way, I'm considering putting a lot of my content on Substack, like all of these 10 to 20 minute videos in text for people to read. If anyone watching here uses Substack or you'd be interested in getting some of my content in written format, let me know in the comments. I'm trying to spread my work as far as I can, but each additional platform requires me to invest more time, which can be challenging, especially when I do have my full-time job and YouTube is taking up a lot. I want to do it. I just want to see how people might react to it. But let's get back to layer number 4. Slowing the moment down is our fourth layer in the effectiveness of having people verbally repeat their disrespect or insults. A lot of dismissive or aggressive remarks come from fast, low-effort processing. So if you'll indulge me here for just a moment, let me get into a little bit of deeper psychology. Think of dual process theory, and this is popularized by Daniel Kahneman, and it operates on a couple of systems. System 1 is quick, emotional, low accountability. When done properly, the repetition technique forces that shift in the conversation to system number 2. That's slow, more cautious, and self-awareness. By asking her to repeat her statement or comment and then restating it back to her and asking if that's what she really thinks, you're effectively saying, slow down and think about what you just said. And that often changes behavior over time because it removes the efficiency of cheap shots. And I think the fifth layer here, that's framing, control, and power dynamics, is perhaps the most important of the repetition process. That's because we're not defending ourselves. We're not counterattacking. We're setting the guardrails on the issue and putting her statement in the wide open and removing any ambiguity of what she said and whether she really believes what she said. That positions you as the one defining the rules of how conversations should be expressed. And importantly, you're doing it without escalation, which makes it very difficult to label you as reactive, emotional, aggressive, or anything else toxic. Hell, if anything, you'll come off across as more controlled and slightly detached from emotions of her disrespect, which increases perceived authority in that exchange. And even better is what the repetition actually does over time. If applied correctly, cheap shots are reduced, disrespect becomes visible instead of deniable, and ambiguity disappears. And when ambiguity disappears, a lot of that behavior fades because it depends on plausible deniability to exist. Additionally, this works better than direct confrontation because direct confrontation invites conflict, while the calm repetition method invites clarification. That's when she's forced to participate in exposing her own behavior in her own words and thoughts, rather than you accusing her of it. Psychologically, that's much harder to resist or to deflect. In the end, you present it all as slowing the interaction down to get to the bottom of what she really believes. And the underlying message is, if something's worth saying once, it should hold up when it's said twice or even 3 times. But what if she makes an insult? You ask her to repeat it. She does. And you ask her if that's what you really think. And she states that yes, in fact, she does really think that. Then what? Honestly, that's much too large of an issue to get into right now. But if that happens, then I'd say it's time to seriously consider whether you should be with that woman. Is that the type of man you'd want to be? One who allows a woman to tell you 3 times in 30 seconds that you're stupid? I hope not, because you're a much better man than that. For more psychology breakdowns that don't make it into my video content, check out my Patreon posts where I post updates about content ideas, extended and uncensored commentaries, and how I decide what makes it into my YouTube content. Thanks for being here. That link is in the description. I'll see you next time.